Some of you are like, no, that's good. So, for you, I don't really know anything about playing basketball. I mean, I know the basics. Ball goes in hoop, right, Ron? All right. And you try and stop the other team from getting their ball in their hoop. All right. But I really don't know the game of basketball beyond that. So if I were to suddenly decide that I wanted to become some great basketball player, there's a lot of things that would be required of me. All right? Yeah, Ron's over here like, uh-huh. Like, can I learn everything I need to know about playing basketball by reading good books on how the game is played? No. Can I become a great player by sitting down with other players and simply listening to them talk about their experiences and the games that they've played? No. Can I become a basketball legend by simply making the decision within my mind and claiming the identity that I am the GOAT now? That's the way it works. No, of course not. What am I missing? If I want to become a great basketball player, one, I have to actually play basketball. I have to do the drills. I have to work out with the team. I have to put my trust in a team of coaches for my development. I have to learn my footwork. I have to learn how to pass the ball correctly. Reading, listening, and personal identity all have their roles to play in being one of the greats, I assure you. But none of them will get me to where I'm trying to go on their own. I have to actually play the game. I also have quite a bit to unlearn when it comes to basketball. I mean, let's be honest, I'm an overweight dude in my 40s who is more comfortable playing video games than doing anything even remotely adjacent to athleticism. I mean, it's not impossible that I could become a great basketball legend. God has done more with less. Not much, but But most of my daily habits today, most of my learned behavior, actively works against me becoming even a mediocre ball player, all right? It's not enough for me to even just practice and study. I also have to change some of my other habits, or I'm just going to be spinning my wheels, right? But let's be honest, as you guys have all figured out by now, that's not only true about basketball. We know that transformation can be hard. Whether it's learning a new skill, whether it's starting a new career, or beginning a new chapter in life, all of it takes practice and study and unlearning the destructive old habits that we have. Learning how to follow Jesus is the same way. You see, when walking with Jesus, a transformation begins. It doesn't happen overnight, and it can often be inconsistent, moving in fits and starts. But the very process of following Jesus changes you. And the first Jesus followers knew this. The first Jesus followers knew this. And I say Jesus followers for a very important detail. Jesus never called his followers Christians. In fact, the word Christian was originally used by residents of Antioch, specifically the ones that didn't follow Jesus, to describe this brand new group that seemed to be popping up in the city. And most historians believe that it was probably originally used as a joke. They were derisively referring to these crazy religious people as little Christs, Christian. But what was eventually intended as an insult started to get claimed by those who follow Jesus, and they adopted the term. The first Jesus followers didn't call themselves Christians. They had a different name for it. They called themselves followers of the way. The whole idea of what we call Christian today was originally in that first generation of the church wrapped up in this idea of the way. And I really like this image because this brings to mind this idea of a journey or a path, a process of living with a beginning, with a middle, with an end, with chapters, with seasons, not simply a single stagnant moment or identity. Not a light switch, but a path. Being a follower of the way is about the act of becoming something new. So why did they call it the way? Well, it actually is a quote straight from Jesus in John 14:6. I don't know why it clipped that there. But this is from John's gospel. Jesus told them, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me." And so this idea that if Jesus is the way, if Jesus himself is the path to the Father, then a follower of the way is a follower of Jesus. For the next 10 weeks, and 10 weeks, we are going to be looking at what it really means to be a follower of the way, to follow Jesus. All right? And what it would have looked like to that first generation of Jesus followers. Some things that we talk about over this season are going to seem very familiar to you because they've survived the 2,000 years of church tradition. Some things might be new and uncomfortable and even a bit convicting. And some items will cause us to confront some of those old patterns and habits that might actually work against what it means to follow the way. But it's all about this process of what following Jesus actually looks like and how, when it's done correctly, when we're doing it as Jesus intended, it slowly changes you into the person that you were always meant to be. All right? In Scripture, we get to watch this process play out in the lives of ordinary people. All right? And I want to point that out. The disciples, the 12 that we talk about in Scripture, we like to think of them now as these like spiritual greats. But when they were called, they were not that. They were just dudes. They were just people. Ordinary, everyday people. And that process of becoming a follower of the way and what it does to you and how it changes you started along the shores of the sea. And that's where we're going to focus in on today. Matthew 4, starting in verse 18. One day, as Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was eventually called Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net to the water, for they fished for a living. Peter, by the way, the Greek word for rock, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, is not unique at all. Simon did it first. But yeah, they were throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. All right. Verse 19, Jesus called out to them, "Come, follow me. I'll show you how to fish for people." And they left their nets at once and followed him. Now think about this for a second. Come and follow me, and I will help you fish for people. Just a couple of fishermen doing their jobs, doing the daily grind, when Jesus approaches them and interrupts their work with this simple invitation. Come, follow me. and they dropped their nets, left their work behind, and followed him. Imagine if some dude walked up to your desk at work, walked up to your place of visit, walked up to whatever it is you do throughout the day, and it's like, hey, you, follow me, and I will show you how to do that for you to drop everything you were doing, and in that moment, walk away from your desk. They dropped their nets, left their work behind, and followed him. Now, there's a lot of cultural stuff going on here that I'd love to unpack, but if I did, it would be like 10 sermons. Long story short, there is a cultural reality happening here of a rabbi calling disciples. So what is happening here is more like Michael Jordan walking up to you and be like, hey, you got what it is. Come with me, and you're going to get a handful of championship rings. And it's something you've always dreamed about. And so you're like, oh, okay. But that's kind of what's happening. But long story short, the invitation words is all it took. Follow me. This is the way, by the way, the way that we talk about being followers of the way. This is the way spelled out in its simplest form. This, frankly, is the Christian life right there for you to understand in its simplest form. Come, follow me. 3 words, that's the whole invitation. And we're going to spend the next few minutes unpacking what exactly Jesus meant by those 3 words and why they are so important. But it's just 3 words. Come, follow me. Let's talk about come. Come, follow me. Now, grammatically, come is an interesting word here. It inherently means leaving where you are. All right? You cannot come to something and stay where you are at the same time. All right? They are opposite concepts. This inherently means that if you were to answer the call to come, if someone beckons you and you answer, you have to leave where you are standing. All right? I know this is simple. I know this is like, well, duh, Josh. But this is important. It is central to this understanding. All right? Matthew 11 explains this. Then Jesus said, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. A little bit different tone in this portion versus the 3-word invitation earlier. Jesus here is calling the tired, the weary, the world-hardened, the exhausted, the ones that have been dragging the burdens of life behind them, the ones that feel crushed by the expectations of life. Who sees themselves in that invitation? Mm-hmm. The ones who have been struggling to keep it all together. The ones who are worried about taking on yet another expectation. Jesus invites them in this call to lay their struggle down, to lay their burden down, to lay their expectations down, and to trade it in for his expectations, for his yoke, which he calls easy and light. So again, this movement from where you are with your crushing weight. Jesus is inviting you towards. Now, a yoke is not a yolk, which is in an egg. I'm saying that weird, but a yoke is a device that locks burden animals together to do work together. All right, usually oxen or something similar. You'd put a yoke on an oxen or a team of oxen and tie that to a plow or to a wagon or whatever. They're a beast of burden working together. This is also a term in the culture